United States Marine veteran, a sergeant. He was involved in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, December 1990 through June of 91. And he was honorably discharged in August of 1995 as an E5 sergeant. That was 20 years ago, and he still fits in the uniform. That really makes a lot of us upset. He is a longtime Bethel resident, he and his wife, and I won't go through the whole thing here. He may tell you some, but I can tell you by his own admission, he was a military brat. His dad was in the Air Force, and they served various Air Force bases around the world. One of which I was in, a lot younger than he was Clark Air Base in the Philippines. He went to school in Connecticut, earned his degrees in Connecticut. The big thing is he has been a volunteer for many years with our scouting units in Bethel. And again, I will let him, if he chooses, explain what he has done, so on. So with that, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Bob Evans.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. For the record, yeah, the uniform's hot. Yeah. It was about 4 weeks ago. I was at work Monday morning. You know how Monday mornings go. I didn't particularly want to be there, and the phone rang. And on the other end is Skip Clapp, and I know Skip from the Scouts, some of the Legion stuff. So I picked up the phone and we chatted for a few minutes. He didn't take long to hit me with the Naval Artillery and ask me if I would speak here today at this event. And that floored me, it honestly did. The first thing that I thought of is, why me? Why would you ask me? I mean, sure, I served. I went where I was told to go. I did what I was told to do. And honestly, I did it as well as I could. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't smile much about it when I was doing it. Yeah, imagine that, right? Well, let's face it, in my defense, I was a Marine, and half the job is just being angry, so. I'm sure every Marine here with me will agree that the United States Marine Corps as an organization is acutely adept at keeping its company angry. So, I asked Skip that right here, right now, right in front of me. There are dozens, easily, veterans who did far more than I, did it far longer, did it far more heroically. Why would you ask me? And Skip said to me, he was ready. Can you believe that? He said to me, we wanted a younger vet who had not only served, but had come back and was continuing to serve in the community, somebody who was active locally, somebody who was a volunteer. And of course, he said to me the last thing was he wanted somebody who walked the walk. I paused for a minute because when he told me this, it reminded me that I was speaking to a Vietnam veteran. And Vietnam veterans as a whole are a group of people who know a thing or two about walking the walk, so how do I say no? So here I am. And the first thing I would like to say, absolutely, is I would like to express my sincere gratitude to American Legion Post 100 for extending to me this honor, and certainly for thinking of me as young. That doesn't happen every Monday, I promise you. According to the United States Army Military History Institute, there have been 1,394,415 deaths since the American Revolution through the ongoing wars in Afghanistan and Iraq today. Excuse me. And despite the precise sounding nature of this number, it's not exact. As in looking at the listing of figures, it was clear that many of them were rounded to the nearest 1,000. And as best as I could determine, these numbers did not account for losses in the quiet services during these periods, the intelligence agencies, the diplomatic corps, all lives no less lost in the defense of our freedom. I suspect that the true number is much, much higher. The truth of it is, the stark truth of it is, even if it was just a single life, strike that. Even if it was just one life given in the name of our being able to live the way we do in the defense of our liberty, it still would be a debt that we could not possibly repay. We still could not bring back that single soul to live out the life that they were surely entitled to live. We still could not allow them to live to see their children born, to grow, to pursue their own dreams, and maybe even see them realized. We still could not suitably compensate the family of that person for the grief that they will carry for their entire lives. But it is so much more than one. It is many, many more. If we stop and attempt to contemplate this figure, this number, these vast sacrifices, it quickly becomes unfathomable, impossible for us to grasp the vast gravity of what has been lost and will never be. And so once a year on Memorial Day, we pause to reflect on these sacrifices. We gather together as we have today. We place wreaths at markers. We stand at attention. We stand in silence for roll calls. And we muster as much honor and reverence as we are able for the names and the memories of the fallen. As we should. It is the least we can do. And if you would forgive me for being so bold, I would say it is the very least we should do. As I go about my daily life, I don't have to look too far before I see, either in the media or right in front of me, somebody raising their fist to high heaven, shouting, screaming, talking about their rights and freedoms with attitude and arrogance. They beat their chests and they glare at the folks around them. And they challenge them for respect. And sometimes when I see these displays, I find myself getting a little worked up. Even though I know full well that when my Irish blood cools a little bit, that I will remember that it is a good thing that we have these things that we can call our rights. It's a good thing that we can beat our chests. And it's even a good thing that we can choose to be arrogant about it if we choose to. But even so, I don't like to allow myself to think this way, because these things that we call our rights, these freedoms and liberties, given the nature of the evil world we live in, they are not rights and liberties at all. They exist only because someone else risked and gave all to create this way of life for us, to wrench us from under the rule of a monarch. And for more than 2 centuries since then, millions more have given to defend, to preserve, and to hand down to us this way of life that we live by. To this very day, to this very hour, men and women are dying that we might gather here and celebrate and go about our lives. In my eyes and in this light, these freedoms and liberties are not rights. They are gifts. They exist only because of those who have given for us. Those of us who live by these gifts are obligated. We are responsible to these honored fallen to cherish what they have died for. And by their deaths, we have been bequeathed an obligation to uphold, to maintain, to work diligently to make better this way of life that they died for, that we live by. One of the best ways we have in front of us, one of the best ways we can honor this debt, is to be active in and contribute to our local communities. As I look around me in Bethel, I see so many of you are way ahead of me on this. In the scouting organizations I go to, in the groups I belong to, the clubs I go to, at the ROTC events I hang out at now and again. Even in the circles I don't travel in, I see volunteers in the community giving, making their world better. I see adults and I see youths giving of their time, their strength, their talents. I see them rolling up their sleeves and doing and leading by example, making the example. So many people around me honoring Memorial Day every day, even if they didn't happen to realize that this is what they were doing. So many people around me walking the walk. And so on Memorial Day, I make a point of going to the observance, attending the parade, standing at attention, saluting the roll call. And I remember that we have a debt, that I have a debt to so many that have fallen, that we might live by the sacrifices that they have given us. Before I sign off, I'd like to take a moment to speak to the young folks that are here today, or more appropriately, the young adults. I know that some of you are here because you have a community service obligation to meet for a merit badge, a rank advancement, a class, even to graduate. I know that some of you are here because your scoutmaster, your coach, or your band leader, maybe even your parent told you to be here. And that's when I'm supposed to say my kids' names. I know that a good number of you are here because you were cordially advised by Commander Dwinells that your voluntary presence was mandatory. And I know that if you chose not to come, you would be rewarded with a personalized motivation session with Master Sergeant. That's right, in the Marine Corps, we don't yell, we aggressively motivate. Remember that. I also know that most of you can think of about 100 things you'd rather be doing right now than standing in a formation listening to some young guy drone on and on and on. Okay, about 1,000 things. And yeah, an old guy, but that Legion thing went to my head. Give me some love. To those of you, I would like to say this. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. The time is quick approaching when your showing up is entirely your choice. No motivation sessions. Your presence here at community events like this, at charity events, is not only a good way to honor those we are here to honor today, it is an investment in your community and in yourself. There are little investments here and there, but they are good investments. And like all good investments, they have a way of growing and benefiting. Those benefits will come back to the community very quickly. They may come back to you more slowly. Years, maybe decades. And I'm not talking about somebody coming up to you and saying thank you. I'm not talking about a plaque. Those are great. I'm talking about an intangible and invaluable piece of you that is you. And when these benefits come back to you, they kind of come back in a way that smacks you full in the face. In a good way. Probably when you expect it the least. And just maybe when you need it the most. I ask all of you to keep our troops, and especially those forward deployed, in your prayers. I thank you for your patience and your attention.
Okay, everybody go out. join the Marine Corps. Sure, the Master Sergeant would love that too.